Hello, Iris J here with Madrona's Pulse Teachings, Astrology for Healing. I hope this finds you doing well. I would really like to chat with you for a little while about this kind of incredible time that we're in for the next 6 weeks or so. And this does have everything to do with Chiron, the wounded healer archetype that we work with. And as I'm making this, we're still in a very significant conjunction between Chiron and the North Node. That was exact on February 19th, and that was at 16 degrees of Aries. And I have a whole video on that if you want to get caught up on that. The link is below. I gave a free workshop and I got to meet some of you, and that was absolutely wonderful. And now we're going to move through these next 6 weeks. And this is really, Chiron is going to move from this period of 16 degrees of Aries to 20 degrees, say heading towards the end of April. And especially if you have anything right there, 16 to 20 degrees of Aries, of Libra, also in the square to Cancer and Capricorn, this will be very personal for you. And this is also going to include eclipse season, and I love me eclipse season, so I will be making more videos specifically about the eclipses. I'm not going to talk about their signatures right now so much as to keep this a little bit more general, just so that I just kind of want to share that this is potentially a kind of sacred time that we're entering into these next 2 months of 2024, because it's really quite extraordinary, the potential healing opportunities in our Aries sense of self, which also necessitates shifting and healing and empowerment within the Libra axis as well, because in astrology we're always working in the axis, and whatever's changing in the Aries sphere is impacting what's changing in that Libra sphere as well. So this is really an incredible period coming into a most likely new expression of our ability to connect with our instincts, with our intuition, in a way, especially for those of us that are on awakening paths, that are on healing spiritual journeys, which for some of us is just what this human experience is all about. This could be a radical new embodiment of what it means to be who you are, of what you're feeling called to experience it in a way that is raw, but raw because it's real, because maybe for one of the first times in our life, especially if you had things come up as Aries is conjunct that North Node, especially if this is bringing up old wounds, if this is bringing up old patternings, if this is bringing up some gritty trauma imprints. The idea here is that we are moving into this kind of sacred work with Chiron to release those old patternings, to release ideas of who we were taught we are. And so much of this most likely was unconscious for a very long part of our life, because this is how programming and conditioning works. And yet something is wanting to come into awareness. And this could have also happened when Mars was conjunct Pluto coming into Aquarius, and people might have been triggering us, the life might have been triggering us. But the idea is that, especially if a trigger is coming up, so that we can see, and that we can see, potentially see a wound in a way that we've never seen it before. And if we can have that glimpse, then we can choose a different path than the path that we chose before, especially when we were moving from an unconscious drive of wounding that's related to early conditionings through childhood, conditionings through adolescence, conditionings in our 20s and 30s, depending upon where we are. But we're still working with conditionings, even once we're in our 20s and 30s, and sometimes 40s through 50s. And sometimes it's in our 60s and 70s when you start being like, oh, yeah, I didn't have to worry about all that for those years. But in another way, I did, because that's what got me to right here. And so it does not matter how old we are just here in this moment right now. And Chiron is going to carry us through our March 25th eclipse, which will be a lunar eclipse, and that will be 5 degrees of Libra. Okay, so that's where the moon will be, and the sun will be at 5 degrees of Aries. And for that eclipse, Chiron is going to be at 18 degrees. It's still going to be conjunct the North Node, which will be at 15, and Mercury is also going to be there for that eclipse. And, you know, that eclipse, that is going to be a lunar eclipse. That might be actually a time of release. It might be when some of that wound that opened up with the North Node and Chiron, that we get to perceive, especially some of the unconscious patternings in the Libra part. How do I relate to people? And we've been working with this, okay? We've been working with the nodes in Libra and Aries. This is not necessarily new in terms of the relationship between my own self and how I relate in one-on-one ways. What might be new is the breakthrough. What might be new is actually feeling that raw, pulsing Aries energy that doesn't think, it just feels and it knows. And that's why Aries goes and it can be a leader. And that's why Aries can go and it can accomplish certain things and it can start certain things. Aries doesn't always care about finishing it because it just wants to feel it and start it. And so if you have a lot of Aries in your chart, you might be familiar with that. And because Aries is here to begin, it's here to launch us forward, it's here to go where some part of us that might like to analyze or think or have all of the pros and cons, Aries no. Aries feels it. And the whole thing right now is that we might be coming into a whole new manifestation of Aries. And if we can do that individually and collectively with Chiron and the North Node during eclipse season, that's huge for humanity, because a lot of our collective failures and confusions about power potentially almost also harken back to the age of Aries and shadow about power and control and what the self is about. You know, we're talking about several thousands of years and cycles of humanity, and then progressing through the age of Pisces and being on the brink, as we say, of the age of Aquarius. And so if we in our own life right now can really come into this new, somewhat sacred embodiment of, oh, my instincts connect me to spirit. Oh, my instincts allow me to hear the call, because that call is something that my soul needs in this life. And part of this is realizing how one-on-one dynamics and the way that we've shown up in one-on-one dynamics maybe haven't served us or aren't serving us now. They served us because they got us to wherever we are, which is where we are right now. And now there's something, especially with that lunar eclipse on March 25th, that most likely we're going to come into an understanding in our one-on-one dynamics that we are simply not carrying forward. And then we're going to go into our solar eclipse on April 8th, and that again is at 19 degrees of Aries. And for that, we've got the sun, moon, and Chiron. And there's other things going on. Again, I don't want to get into all the aspects because I will make videos about each eclipse. But wow, sun, moon, and Aries, and Chiron there in Aries, and that will be with the North Node at 15 degrees, okay? And also for that solar eclipse, I just said I wasn't going to talk about the aspects, but Mars will be conjunct Saturn in Pisces, and Mars being the ruler of Aries is really significant. And again, just heightening the opportunity for us to feel the call of what it means to be a spiritual being, which when we really embody that, when we come into, you know, especially with that Mars conjunct Saturn in Pisces, and the divine unconditional love and compassion that can stream in to a new cycle of Aries energy. And we're going to have such incredible opportunities for this as Saturn and Neptune come into Aries and begin new cycles, moving beyond 2024. And so there is this journey that we're making with Chiron through the next six weeks, because then what happens right after eclipse season on April 20th, we have Uranus and Jupiter conjunct at 21 degrees of Taurus. And then Chiron will be at 20 degrees of Aries, and it will be conjunct Venus. And Mercury will be retrograde, and Mercury will be there at 16 degrees of Aries, which is where Chiron was conjunct the North Node. And Venus will be at 19 degrees of Aries, which is where we just had our eclipse. And Chiron will still be there too, with them at 20 degrees. And Jupiter conjunct Uranus in Taurus, such expansive energy. We're going to talk about that as we start getting kind of called into that energy as well. But just here, planting the seeds in our awareness that there is an ongoing cycle of healing opening up to us right now. And it most likely, you know, especially if you have personal planets or angles at these, 16 to 20 degrees of Aries or Libra or Capricorn, Cancer, it's probably not, it's probably a little messy. It might be tender. It might spark all sorts of emotions. Things might be coming up. This is, especially as the Aries energy is activated, Aries does like to move, whether it's moving the body, or it's just moving ideas really quickly through journaling or even painting or just having like a dance. Aries usually, it doesn't always have to move for a super long time. It just needs to discharge the energy. But again, looking at your chart, working with an astrologer, seeing what's being activated and working with the elements and finding balance through the elements is one of the best ways I feel to really work with kind of mental, emotional, spiritual balancing. When we're being activated by transits, as is what transits are here to do with us. And so I'm just going to leave it there. Okay. So just opening up these ideas of what this could absolutely also be an initiation. This could be an initiation for you, especially if you have those personal planets being activated in your natal chart. Wherever you have Aries or whatever houses are being activated, that's going to give you more insights into what this initiation is all about. But this type of energy, especially coming into the eclipse season with Chiron conjunct the moon and the sun, this could absolutely be an initiation into a new stage, whether that's showing up just in your sense of self or the work you do, or entering onto a spiritual path, or just suddenly getting interested in this, what is archetypal evolutionary astrology, coming into astrology in a way that is much, much deeper than pop astrology, tapping into the ancient roots and symbols and wisdom that archetypal astrology offers us. This could be coming up for you as well, along with some healing. And again, this healing, most likely beyond this life, okay? But this life stories, they can come up and they can be tender. So with that, I am sending blessings out to you, and please be well and see you soon. Take care.